GMO and its myths. Look into a controversial topic. DNA structure. DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, is a molecule that carries genetic instructions used in growth, development, functioning, and reproduction of all known living organisms. It has two biopolymer strands coiled around each other to form a double helix. The information in the DNA is stored as a code that is made up of 4 chemical bases: adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. These 4 chemical bases are then paired up to make complementary bases that work together to form the DNA structure. These strands of information can be used to develop other cells and can also be modified, which end up as genetic modifications. This is a picture that shows the base pairs. Adenine is paired up with thymine, and guanine is paired up with cytosine. This then forms the DNA structure, as can be seen.
Artificial selection. The artificial selection is an intentional reproduction of plants or animals that have desirable traits. Farmers and breeders used this method long before Darwin and Wallace. This only allowed the plants and animals with desirable characteristics to reproduce. It caused the evolution of farm stock. It's called artificial selection because people select the organisms and get them to reproduce. One good example of artificial selection is the wild mustard and other common vegetables that were cultivated from forms of wild mustard. This is a picture that shows the example that I just explained.
What caused the invention of GMOs? Genetically modified foods are developed and marketed because there is some previous advantage either to the producer or consumer of this food. This is meant to translate into a product with a lower price, greater benefit. One of the objectives for developing plants based on genetically modified organisms is to improve crops' protections. The genetically modified crops currently on the market are mainly aimed and increase the level of crops protection through the introduction of resistance against plant disease caused by insect or virus or through increased tolerance toward herbicide. And this is a picture that non-GMO food. Genetic engineering. Genetic engineering is the creation of GMOs. It is the modification of certain characteristics in an organism by manipulating its genetic material. It inserts the DNA into the genome of an organism. It pursues the same purpose as conventional breeding and selective breeding, since it is to improve the quality and the productivity of crops and organisms. This selective and conventional breeding would bring undesirable traits into the modified crop. However, through genetic engineering, it only inserts the desirable traits into the modified crop.
Genetically modified bacteria. The genetically modified bacteria was the first organism to be modified in a laboratory because of its simple genetics. These organisms are used nowadays for the production of large amounts of proteins, so they can be used in medicine. With the help of genetically modified bacteria, it's been possible to produce medication for diabetes or treat hemophilia. There are other varieties of use for this bacteria. It can be used to cure or hinder tumors and fight Crohn's disease. It's used a lot in some soils to facilitate the crop growth and produce chemical toxic to crop pests. GMO bacteria can also clean up mercury pollution and detect arsenic in sweet water.
CRISPR and recombinant DNA. Recombinant DNA technology is part of genetic engineering, and this is the process that involves moving the gene responsible for making the protein into a different organism. It commonly involves moving genes into bacteria, which can be grown in huge numbers. This technology is being used in many GMOs today. CRISPR is a new genome editing tool that has the potential to transform the field of genetic engineering. It allowed lower costs, and which would make it more affordable for everyone, and it is more precise to allow better development, and this will result in wider use. This is an example of recombinant DNA. It takes the gene wanted from the gene donor, and it is put in a plasmid donor, and by combining these two, it transforms into a fresh bacterium that would create another organism. This is an example of CRISPR. It takes the guided DNA and inserts into and uses CRISPR to make it into a new DNA structure, and it is more precise to be used, therefore better to be used.
Synthetic biology. Synthetic biology began because of the humans that started to alter the genetic codes of some living organisms. With more information on the codes, scientists have managed to speed up the process of developing some new breeds of plants and animals. Nowadays, scientists can use computers or laboratory chemicals to make new sequences of DNA, design organisms that can produce biofuels, or excrete the precursors of medical drugs.
How GMO helps decrease fertilizer use. Fertilizers containing nutrients can boost crop yield tremendously, but resulting agricultural runoff pollutes nearby waterway. If plants were more efficient at fixing nutrients, the problem could be elevated. Plants endowed with acorn genes absorb greater amount of the element from the soil and can thrive under low nutrient conditions. The modified plant contain more carbon, amino acid, and about 30% more nutrients than control plants did. In addition, they grew well in soil containing 1/10 the amount of nitrogen that normal shrooms need to flourish. And this is a picture that shows a GMO plant and a non-GMO plant. How GMO affect the environment. GMO have significantly increased farm yield while decreasing pesticides use and soil erosion. The idea is that because genetically modified crops are engineered to produce pesticides in their body or to be immune to particular herbicide, they reduce the man-hour, fuels, and chemical input in farming. Agricultural economists found that genetically modified technology increased crop yield by 22%, reduced pesticides use by 37%, and increased farmer profit by 68%. This is the images that shows the GMO's effect on the environment. GMOs can reduce greenhouse gas emissions and make a better farm. GMO's impact on human health. According to the Office of Science at the United States Department of Energy, one of the professors of genetic modified crops is a better taste and increased nutrient resistance to disease and faster output of crops. The Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations also says that farmers can grow more food on less land with genetically modified crops. Genetically modified animals have certain genes inserted into their GMOs so that they can produce better milks, eggs, and meats. These animals also are expected to have a higher resistance to disease and overall better health. With better natural waste management, in theory, genetically modified crops and animals will also be more environmentally friendly because they conserve water, soil, and energy. And this is a picture of a GMO's corn and a non-GMO's corn. A GMO's corn can protect themselves from the insects and herbicides.
Is it possible to reach the food demand using GMOs? Yes, it is. GMO will make the necessary amount of food for 9 billion people in the future thanks to the technology that is created nowadays. For example, the water sensors or smart greenhouses. The water sensors will tell the farmers via smartphones, tablets, or computers the amount of water that is needed at a time. And the greenhouses also are controlled with technology. They record the data and helps the farmers to know what the crop needs. This is an image of how smart greenhouses work. Yeah.
Curves and project curves of GMOs. In medicine, genetically engineered is used to make biopharmaceutical drugs. Various organisms are engineered for use as factories to produce the drug product. Bacteria are preferred options, as they are easiest to grow and scale up for production, but depending on the complexity of the drug's molecular structures. Other organisms, such as yeast, etc., can also be used to express the drug product. The first genetically engineered drugs approved for use was insulin. By the year 2000, were over 100 genetically engineered drugs on the market. And this is a picture of genetically engineered drugs. Genetic engineered drugs and crops do have some commonalities. Both are the result of really long and careful screening process to find the right molecule or proteins and the genes that code for them. For a drug product, the candidates are molecules with the potential to treat or cure a disease or condition. The intent in agriculture is to find protein or molecule that will provide a useful nutrients to a plant and does not cause harm to people or the environment. The approval process for a drug's product is to ensure that the drug does what it is designed to do with minimized side effects. Because these compounds are designed to have such profound biological impacts, they have a more in-depth approval process. They must not only be shown to be safe, but also to be effective for the condition they are targeted to treat. Myths of GMO. Some people claim that GMOs are harmful to the human body. However, this statement is not based with any scientific evidence and is not true. According to the Korean professor that was interviewed which studied genetics modified crops, there is no evidence that GM crops are dangerous to eat. There is no evidence of ill effects linked to consumption of any approved GM crop for the past 20 years. Also, through research, we have known that GMOs are among the most thoroughly tested foods in the market. Therefore, before releasing the GM crop to eat, it would be thoroughly tested and be proven to be safe and beneficial to the human body or the environment before releasing it into the market. Also, we have been modifying crops for over thousands of years, and genetic engineering is only another way to do the same thing but more efficiently. Therefore, if there is a problem with modifying crops, then it would have arisen in the past years since we have been doing it for so long already. The next myth of GMO is that some people claim that the technology behind GMOs are dangerous. This is not true. As said before, genetic engineering is only an improved method of what we have been doing. It is only one of the breeding methods of plants and animals. The technology only modifies genes and designs a beneficial effect that is designed for it to be done. The next myth of the GMO is that people have said that GMOs are bad for the environment. This is again not true. There's no proof that GM crops contain genes that would destroy the ecosystem. GM crops only carry the desired genes and traits that it was designed to be, rather than conventional breeding, which carries a lot of other undesired genes and traits, which could be bad. Products like drought-resistant crops are actually good for the environment, and it does not affect the environment negatively in any way. At least there's no proof in the stage now that we are today with inventing GM crops. Conclusion. People that create these myths are often not credible in their statements. They're often in the internet, and they're normally not scientists, and they have no evidence to support their statements. However, Nobel scientists that are credible actually advises GMO for use in the world because it is better for agricultural development, and it will be beneficial to the field of agricultural development in the world. With increasing pesticide and herbicide use, the world will face a huge crisis. Through using GM crops, we will decrease this pesticide and herbicide use, and it will help the world overcome this huge crisis. Listening to the right information is very important because if we believe in the wrong information that has no scientific sense, then it will create more people that believe in the wrong thing. And we have to acknowledge that GMOs are only released after strict testing. Therefore, when it is actually released, it is proven to be safe and beneficial for human consumption. For the better development of the world, we have to listen carefully before we believe, and we have to know what we believe in and know if it's right to believe in. Thank you. This is the bibliography.